Welcome to yet another show of Global Inspirations, a show which features people who are making an impact worldwide, people who are doing something meaningful and creating impressions and creating a legacy for others to follow. And today we have an amazing woman on the show, all the way from Perth, Australia, Mirai Tulekima. Welcome, Mirai.
Thank you, Ruby. It's such a pleasure to be on your platform. I've seen some of the episodes. It's just amazing to be part of, people making a difference and also sharing, sharing what actually made us, who we are. And I'm really delighted to be on this platform today.
It's really a pleasure to have you because we always see when people create an impact or when people share their stories, others they resonate, others they say, oh, I want to be like her, or I have that in common with her. Maybe one fine day I'm like in her shoes, those kind of things. So a very, very warm welcome to you, Mirel. To our guests and viewers, I would like to give a small introduction of Mirel, and then she's going to be talking a little bit more in detail about award-winning global entrepreneur, a global energy and STEM consultant, influencer, women empowerment advocate and champion, international speaker, published author, and online talk show host. I remember being on her show once, and that is still very memorable for me.
Yes, still have those memories when I was still starting, and it's just important to start, and then the rest just follow.
Exactly.
So thank you very much for the introduction, and I think you summarize it really well. I'm really a multi-talented and multitask person. Obviously, my main skill expertise is in STEM and energy, in the energy sector. Like you mentioned, I'm all about greatness, and greatness is about empowering over. It's about inspiring over, and that's what I've been doing almost more than a decade now, to just use my story, use what I know to help other people, and particularly women.
Exactly.
Who needs it. Yeah.
Now, I would like to add and little bit throw light on your career as well. She's a petroleum engineer who gained her experience working for more than 25 years in Africa, Europe, Asia, and Australia in a range of technical and leadership roles for major oil, gas, and energy companies. And that's not enough, guys. She has published 3 books, not one, not two, but 3 books. The books on local content key enabler for oil and gas projects in emerging markets in 2015, then Stepping into Your Greatness in 2016, and then Natural Gas Strategies in 2018. Wow, what an impressive profile. And there's much, much more, which I'm sure we are going to hear a little bit more in detail from Mirai herself. So please tell us, Mirai, a bit more about your work.
Okay, so I'm going to try to be short because it's really long. So like you said, I'm a petroleum engineer. And the story of becoming a petroleum engineer is quite funny because, like I tell people, it was actually more love at second sight than love at first sight, because sometimes people know already what they want to do. It's their dream. They've dreamed about it way before. But in my case, it came as a result of a challenge, and I will say a drama, because back then I was a student. I was a foreign student in France, and my dad, who was the breadwinner and paying for my study, passed away. So I basically have to wrap up my studies. I was finishing my bachelor back then in science, and then go back to Gabon. So because that's where I'm from, Gabon in West Africa, former French colony. and look for a job because, you know, I had no support, no financial support. My mom couldn't, you know, support me staying overseas. So I just had to go back. And then when I went back in Gabon, the only industry that was actually hiring was the oil and gas industry. And I managed to get in. And I was not a petroleum engineer because I studied information technology actually, but back then, because there was not enough, you know, they didn't have enough engineer. Some of the company would hire people who have a background in science or technology and then train them for 6 months, 8 months to become petroleum engineer. And that's how I became a petroleum engineer. And so very difficult at the beginning because I didn't know anything about the industry, had to learn everything. Mm-hmm. And the key thing is it's that, you know, I was surrounded by only men. There was a woman in the leadership, but it was a male-dominated environment. And because I was very wounded as well, you know, with the passing of my dad, I actually went into it as a victim in a way, and you know, saying, okay, it's just what it is. I'm just gonna take it, and you know, and just, you know, sit there. And I just realized that I was becoming more frustrated, and I had to change my mindset. And that's when I realized that, you know what, I'm not adopting the right mindset, and if I continue, things are not going to change. Then I clicked, you know, things started to click. I changed the mindset. I started to reach out when I didn't know. I started to get help, you know, because obviously I didn't know anything about the industry, but get help from the men around me, even if I didn't have women, and be positive about it. Whatever challenge came to me, whatever challenge they were putting on me, because obviously being a woman, I was challenged at, you know, at any level. And being a woman of color back then was even worse. So, but I was taking it as a challenge that I could use for, you know, to get better and to go to the next level in that industry. And that's what I did. I look at it. I look at my diversity, me being a woman of color and being a woman as an asset, because when I shifted, what I was telling myself is that if I do a great job, people will remember me because I look different, which is not, you know, what my counterpart, who were really Caucasian male, you know, who look, you know, the same, couldn't have. They had to be really excellent to get the visibility. So I've used that as a visibility and became also more vocal, took, you know, the opportunity to get involved in project. Even when people didn't want me to get involved, I would ask to get involved and push for it, and really be present and be proactive so that I'm not left behind. And that's really the message that I want to tell people, is that sometimes if you don't take the power yourself, if you don't step into your power, then, you know, you're going to be left behind. And the challenges are there. Everything can be there to stop you, but you have to take this power, use this power that you have to push your own agenda and organize yourself to get wherever you want to be. And I think that's the great thing about, you know, my own story. And since then, I've been really very active, taking opportunity to share my story, to help people, the more vulnerable, and especially women, to make them understand that, you know, a woman empowerment is, you know, start with each one of us. We're not going to have to wait for another woman to come and empower us. We have to empower ourselves before we can, you know, get and empower other people. Because if we're not empowered, then, you know, nothing is going to happen. And it has to be our problem. It has to be each movement problem to think about empowering not only themselves, but empowering the most vulnerable women in their community, in their families, in everywhere where they see that this empowerment is necessary. And that's really what I've been doing in every area that, you know, I've been involved professionally, and also socially, and in my in a family environment, in everything.
Wow.
That's really my mission.
That's really a very, very powerful word coming from you, Mirelle. I think people who are watching us, they will absolutely resonate when you said you use your color, you use your diversity as a strong weapon, as a strong and powerful weapon to make a difference. Because not many people think like that. Even in that, you thought positive, and that's how you used it, and you became so successful. I think it's a very strong message for people out there who come from diverse backgrounds when they feel we can't make a difference because we are foreigners. We can't make a difference because we are different. But if they hear you, Mirelle, I think they would be so, so empowered listening that when we use our, the thing that could be a shortcoming to our strong coming or as a strength, of course, we can strike harder and stronger and definitely make an impact. That's a very, very powerful word coming. And I know oil and gas is not a woman oriented, it's more male oriented or male dominated industry. And you kind of used your male counterparts to form a network and asked for help, because that's something which people don't do. They feel that they can take care of things themselves. And when they struggle, they swim, they try to do things they're not able to do. They keep asking as a last resort. But a smart woman like Mirelle thought about asking, because why waste time when you have networks and you can use them? You can talk to the people and get the best of it and move on. If I may ask you, Mirelle, was there something that you would like to share with our audience, some specific incident which kind of shook you, which kind of made you like kind of, oh my God, that's done, I can't take it anymore kind of a thing. But then you shook, then you stood back or you sprung back with double the force.
So one of the event that shook me, was when I became a mother, as in this male-dominated environment. And so I was, doing well, and so got married, and then, got pregnant. And I realized that in, the environment where I was, and especially my direct report and the leadership above him, they were not happy. They, for them, it was like, why is she getting pregnant now that, she's getting the visibility? We're thinking about, giving her the promotion. We think that it's going to be a showstopper. And the funny thing is, I came one day and passed by, the office of my boss, and he had his secretary sitting, next to him. So you have to go through the secretary and then go to the boss. And I heard him talk to the secretary. What's happening to Mireille? Why is she getting pregnant now? I had such a good plan and future for her and all kind of thing. And I just realized, I said, but being pregnant doesn't disqualify me from doing anything, I'm not being disabled. I'm the same. Yes, I'm going to have a child, but it doesn't mean that everything that I know, the skills that I have, the determination that I have is actually going to just vanish like that. And so it was a very hard time because, I could feel that I was basically sidetracked, left behind in some of the projects. It's like, oh, no, that's okay. And I realized it was just because of this pregnancy. So I had to step up. I think at the beginning I was really wounded, and wanted to give up. And then I told myself, what, why do I have to give up? I mean, this is a joyful event. I'm going to have a child, and it doesn't mean that I'm not going to work harder. So and it's actually going to be the opposite, because now with a child, I need to make sure that this child has a future, and which is going to stimulate me even more. So I got, it helps me to get organized, but also to involve more my spouse to actually help me to be able to have a good career, because it was basically for him to say, it's a team effort. These are the challenges that I have, and we're going to work together. You're going to help me to take this challenge, because I need to prove to my hierarchy that being pregnant and becoming a mom is not a dead hand for my career, and it's not actually something that will stop, the progression of anything or all the dreams that I have to make it to the top in this industry. So it was a very heavy emotional moment. I went through crying and all kind of thing. But, at the end, when I came into the industry, I said, I'm going to take things in my hand. I'm going to forget about, all the noise and what people are saying, and just prove them wrong. So that's
wow.
It became, a stimulation more than anything.
Very well said. Very well said. It became a strong stimulation, and you took that again in your strength, that now I have a baby, I have a child, and I need to take care of the child even more. And it's only possible if you have a strong career, and if you have I would say, assurance from your workplace that it is there for you. It's not because you have a child, you are no more useful for us. So you work even harder to make yourself visible for the important projects. So from your conversation, I could sense that there was a time that you did face glass ceiling, because you mentioned that the important projects were not given to you because you're having a child. After having the child, Miriel, how did it change you? How did you balance work, your personal and professional life? How did you find the right balance between the two?
So I use different tools and different strategies. So the first strategy, like I mentioned, is to really get, your spouse involved, because, if you don't have this support, it becomes very difficult. So that was the first thing. And because also in the oil and gas, I had assignment. I had to change assignment every 3 to 4 years, so to go in different countries. So what we used to do is when my children were still small, is to identify, countries where we could have help, cheap help, and really get for those jobs in those countries, so that we could continue, because my husband was also, in a way, he is in the same industry. So he was also, taking care of his own career. So that's how we went, we went to work in Africa, in Asia, where we knew that the support was there. We could have, a nanny full time, or the support at home that could help, that will actually be very important for us to continue to have a professional life. So that was the tool as well. Third one was to be really honest about it, and be honest about asking when it was necessary, but at the same time, when asking for those moments and those permission, for example, when the child is sick, or when you want to take care of the child during the holiday and stay, is to deliver and work even harder to deliver more than what you promise. And that's something that I made sure to do, even it was really, taxing. But what I was saying is that if I want this time, I want this stress of spending more time with my children, then I need to be a step ahead, so that it doesn't become me taking the time with my children, doesn't become the reason why I shouldn't be, involved in those projects, or shouldn't be given high profile work.
System, it's a must, especially first from your partner, your husband, your spouse. If you have the right kind of support from him, I think half the battle is won. Because he's there with you, he's there as a strong pillar of support, and you can always go back to him and ask for help. So if that is there, that is one good thing. And second, I think, which is most important, is to have an understanding peer network at workplace, your supervisor or your immediate boss. If you have that on the formal front, and on the home front, your spouse, I think you are in good hands. Then you can move on. Absolutely, I agree. And being a career woman myself, I think we have been lucky to have that support system. And that's how we have been able to move, not very fast, not very slow, but at a moderate level, taking everything into consideration, whether it's our children, whether it's our husbands, or whether it's our other work-related issues.
Important to tell, to say that here, especially to women, because a lot of women want to do it on their own. It's not possible, you know, it's not possible. You need to have the support system. You need to get organized. You need to plan because, you know, on your own, you're just gonna drive yourself crazy and drain yourself.
True.
And it's not gonna be, you know, beneficial for anybody, not for the kids, not for your husband, not for your work, you know, colleagues, nobody. So it's
very
important
true
to have this support system.
I think, I mean, the type of women that you're talking about, they want to show that they can do everything on their own. So it's fine to be self-centered, but then it just pays off for a short period of time. It's a very short-term approach. You can do, I can do this, I can do that. Great, you can do. But if you do it for long-term, you know, taking long-term into consideration, then automatically such people, they have a burnout. Or automatically such people, if they're not getting what they sacrifice, they think, oh, I sacrificed my family, I sacrificed my time being there. And when they don't get those things, the expectations are kind of crashing every single day. And that's why it is important, as I said, we did it moderately. We went up the race gradually, because if you go gradually, things are taking their own time and there's a pace for everything. Your child, your husband, your other things, other important, you know, issues or things which are important for you at that point of time. So it gives the best of everything. Tell me something, Mire. Who is your inspiration? Because you are a very inspirational woman yourself, but I'm sure you must be having your own role model as well. Tell us something. Who is that person and why?
Yeah, there are, you know, several people, but I would put first, you know, my grandmother and my mom. So my grandmother, which is on my mom's side, but my mom as well. And why them? My grandmother was not educated at all. She was not educated at all. She got married, and she got married to somebody older than her. She had no choice. It was an arranged marriage, and she got married to this gentleman who was, I think she was like 14 and he was already in his 30s. So she just had to follow that. But she actually made sure that because it was not a chore, she was going to get out of it. And she actually defied the family, the culture, and at some point left the relationship. Yes, she had my mom back then and a brother, but left the relationship to go and marry the person that she really liked. And she was really stubborn and knew what she wanted. And despite, you know, all the cultural pressure and everything, she managed to say, you know, I have power and I'm going to use this power to get where I want to be. And I always admired that from her. She was not educated at all, but so smart and so, and she used to use her voice when it was needed. And my mom was more because she was a teenager. You know, she became a mother when she was still a teenager. She was still at secondary school, had to stop working. And she went through different, you know, breaks up after that, you know, with men, and didn't really get discouraged. And so before she married my dad, she had 3 children. But despite all of that, after having me, and she was 27 when she had me, she already had 6 children. She went back to school, study, and became, you know, a doctor. So it's, you know, those strong women who actually never give up. Yes, at a certain point, you know, you feel like they are defeated, or it's, you know, it's the end for them, but they wake up and they take their courage and go against the odds and tell, you know, and really tell a story to people that, you know, we never give up. And we always get where we want to be. And I think that's the key. Those 2, you know, women that are really kind of look to when, you know, I look at the situation and I'm like, oh no, I want to give up. I look at them, I say, it's nothing, Mireille. You know, when you look at what your grandmother and what your mom had to do to be where they want it to be. And that's really my inspiration.
Wow, wow. Very, very well said. When you look at such strong women and it's in the family, you feel what I'm going through or what I have been through. It's nothing as compared to what they went through back then. It motivates you and it boosts you further. So, wow, amazing. I mean, when you tell both your grandmother and your mother were moms when they were teenagers, it's in today's world, it's kind of, oh my God, how did they do that? Because it's not easy. It's not easy because when you're a teenager, you're a kid yourself. You're trying to figure out your own life, and they were figuring out with their children. So it's wow, it's not easy. So I guess it's in the DNA that we have Mireille, who is so strong, so powerful, and yet has a smile all the time. I guess that's what is maybe that's the secret of your female leadership mantra, as we can say. So tell us something little bit about, I've seen you at all these forums where you talk about women empowerment, female leadership, especially women, girl child, and things like that. Can you tell us a little bit more? What is it to you? After hearing your mother and mom's, grandmother's story, I'm sure there's something more to it.
Yeah, I think when I talk, when I hear about female leadership, and the way I define it, it's this resilience and this strength, that we have as women, where we can manage different things at the same time and be able to collaborate to come to a solution or to come to a place where we want to be. And I think that's what, we should start to do a little bit more. And we see it now, with what's happening, the pandemic, is that the collaborative side that we have is actually the answer to whatever it's happening right now. So I'm really convinced that bringing more women, on the table and putting them in leadership, it's actually going to help us to get to a better place as far as humanity is concerned, because we manage families, we manage, we talked about the work-life balance. We manage the family, we manage our, people at the workplace, and we find the balance, each one of us found a balance in a different way. It's not always the same, the same strategy that they use, but we found a balance, and we have this resilience as well that is now needed, because it's all about collaboration now, and women have been collaborating in different areas. And I think that's really what defines, for me, the woman leadership, this collaboration aspect, the resilience, and really never giving up, because, we go through a lot, but we always, we fall, but we stand up and we keep going. But I think what's missing sometimes is really the intensity of doing it, and raising our hand and saying, we are here, we have those strengths, we can bring a solution. And I think we know we can do it, but we don't always voice it. And I think that's where we need to push a little bit more.
Very well said. I think that's one quality in women. They always underestimate themselves. They underestimate their power. They underestimate their values, their skills. Can I do it? They always have that doubt. Whereas our counterparts, men, they are overconfident. They feel that they can do anything. It is possible. So I think that's where, people like you and me just jump to help our sisters when they feel they are not confident. And I think that's great, when you are having a woman who is strong, who is great, but she's kind of underconfident about her own skills. We just need to gently push that person. And as you said in the beginning, only when we are self-empowered, we can empower others. Exactly. But when we doubt ourselves, when we are not sure about ourselves, we can't empower other people. It's not possible, because we are doubting our own skills. So that's a very strong message. So all the viewers who are listening, please pay attention that Mireille strongly believes if you empower yourself, if you are aware of your plus and minus, you can work on your skills better. and help others. Parting note, Mireille, what will be your message to especially to the women out there, and of course to people at large, especially during this pandemic?
So my message is really simple. I know, people are going through challenges. It's been going on for almost 2 years now. And especially women, we tend to be discouraged, to go straight to the things that are not working and forget that this is an opportunity for us to rethink everything that we've been doing, to rethink the way we go about, our life, and really spot those opportunities that are actually going to help us to optimize what we have and go to the next level of our greatness. And like I said before, we have power. We have power. Sometimes we feel like we're powerless. We have power, and sometimes and this pandemic is actually testing us to the core to get and use the power that we have. And that's an important thing that I want to tell women, especially. You have power. You can do it. You know that you have the skills, and the feminine leadership is really needed right now. Take this power and go. I'm not saying that it's going to be easy, but take the step. And the collaboration is important. You can't do it on your own. Reach out to the people and find out what's missing in getting you where you want to be, and partner, talk to people, ask questions, use your voice, because that's really what it's all about. Use your voice to state what you want and to state where you want to be, and to get out of this dark tunnel that we sometimes get stuck in. Don't get stuck there. Keep moving, keep going to the next step. And one of my motto is always, don't leave anything on the table. Try everything. Always try. Don't, yes, it's okay to cry. It's okay to get discouraged, but don't stay there. Keep going, keep trying, and use everything that you have in you and around you to get yourself to the next level.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Mireille Tolekima. Strong words coming from the Wonder Woman herself. Greatness is everything. Everyone can be great in some way or the other. It's how you realize, how you see, because it's within you and you're your best judge. And very rightly said, don't keep anything on the table. You need to try. You can't just say, oh, I don't like it, without trying it. Because unless you don't try, you will never know how it was or how it could be, and how you can use it for your betterment. So great words and great talk of wisdom today. Thank you so much for sharing so many, I would say, golden points today at our show. And I'm sure people who want to get in touch with her, I'm going to share her website. I'm going to share all her social media handles in the links after the show. So anyone who wants to get in touch with Mireille, please don't hesitate. She is a woman of voice, a golden voice, and she's always there to lend her hand to help you out. I have known her for quite some time, and I have really hit very well with her, and we are still enjoying the collaboration and highlighting each other's work at whichever place, whichever platform it is possible, we do it. So thank you so much, Mireille, for coming on the show, empowering the viewers by your voice, by your golden words and your inspirational story. So we look forward.
It's been amazing. I really liked the platform, and I want to talk to your viewer to be encouraged to continue to get inspired by all the people that you bring, because like you said, those people are making a difference, and it's important that they learn from them. And like I said, we're not alone. Maybe, we have, challenges, but we can actually find a solution by watching a show like that. So it's important that people continue to get engaged and come in and get, this knowledge that you are sharing.
Thank you
for your platform. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And as I say, it's always nice to share stories and be inspired and say what you have is better, what you have that can become inspirational for others to follow. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you, viewers, for watching us, being inspired. And if there is someone out there who wants to share their story, you're more welcome to join us in our next show. Till then, Keep smiling, keep watching, and stay safe.